Hi there, Lloyd Machedo. Speaking to you from LloydMachedo.com. Who is Lloyd Machedo and Think Personal Branding? I got this question from one of my clients. He was preparing himself for an interview with this multinational company, a Fortune 500. And we had these sessions of back and forth where I could prepare him for the interview. So I thought it would be a great time for me to give you tips, tricks, and strategies how you can ace an interview when you have an interview. Now, keep in mind that an interview is nothing but a conversation that you're going to have between yourself and the person who is sitting across the table. Now, it is you selling yourself to this person, giving that person a sense of urgency, a kind of a requirement, and you are trying to tell that person that this is your requirement and this is where I fit in. Keep in mind that there are a lot of mind games that would be played when they have the interview session. For example, the guy who takes the interview would normally sit on a very large chair. His chair would be very large. Your chair would be very small. He would be sitting, upright, and you'd be sitting on this big chair with a very big table, and you would be sitting on a small chair, facing slightly at the side, looking smaller. So what they're trying to do is present these mind games where you're smaller than me, I'm bigger than you. And this is where the mind games come into play. So don't fall for these mind games. Always keep in mind that the person who is there, yes, he would try to exert himself over you, but you need to kind of have this judo technique where you do not allow them to fall on top of you, but rather just brush off their weight and learn how to, dance the dance. Okay. Now, keep in mind that the person who is speaking to you, he wants to know that you are as good as you claim to be. So this is where the point number one comes into play. That is, you need to prepare. Remember this: prepare, prepare, prepare. I cannot, I cannot stress enough of this. If you prepare to win, you will, if you prepare to fail, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. So make sure that you prepare in such a way that you're preparing for victory. Now, by preparation, I mean you need to consider various factors like what are you saying, how are you saying it, the manner in which you're saying it. You need to, I call it thin slicing. You need to thin slice your complete performance of how you do the interview. In order for you to do well, in an interview, this is point number two, is memorize a script. Now, keep in mind, in every interview, there are these standard questions like, tell me about yourself. I'll put another video where I answer the question, tell me about yourself, how you can actually tell them about you. But just to give you a summary, tell me about yourself should involve a chronological sequence. It's like, it starts with where you're born, your school, your high school, your college, first job, second job, third job, then your achievements, then what are you proud of, your expertise, core competencies, then where you are presently, where you're looking forward towards the future. And, you can just brush up by selling your strengths and encapsulate it by giving something really nice that the person can hang on to and proceed with a further, following questions, or he can proceed with something nice where he can see a connection. So this, you need to have those standard questions prepared, like tell me something about yourself, tell me your strengths, tell me your weaknesses, why should I consider you for this job, what makes you stand out. So prepare a script. Now, what do I mean by prepare a script is for every question that is asked, prepare bulleted points on what you're going to say. Let's say, for example, tell me something about yourself. Okay, I was born here. My family consists of so-and-so. There's many brothers and sisters. School, I completed this here. Then high school, I completed this there. College, this is what I did, and this was my percentage or whatever, if you have something exceptional. Then first job, this is where I worked. This is what I worked as. This is how long I worked. This is a summary of what I'm supposed to do. So have everything in bullet points and make sure that you memorize it, because when you memorize it, it comes in a nice fashion. Now, obviously, don't, many of the candidates, when I speak to them, they are like looking up, my first job was so-and-so, my second job, they look like they are struggling to remember. Don't do that, okay? Memorize in such a way that it becomes second nature to you, where when you're speaking, your gestures, your body language, your eye contact, the way that you're saying it, it expresses himself. Remember, always express, never impress. Okay. Point number three is record your sessions. Now, when I have these sessions with my clients, what I tend to do is I tend to keep a video recording of their presentation. So I ask them the question, okay, man, tell me something about yourself. So the guy goes on, I was born here, I was done this, I did that, whatever. After that, what I do is through Skype, you can record these sessions. I take their permission for recording, and then I play it back to them where they are actually watching the screen share of how they perform. And the purpose of doing this is when you kind of watch your performance, you would see gestures, you would see phrases, you would see acts, or you see actions that can be distracting. For example, some people, they move their hands, which can be distracting. Some people have too much of, they have this as a crutch word. Some people tend to be hyper, like pretty nervous. Some people can keep talking and bore the daylights out of a person. So what happens is when you record and rehearse and you review your performance, you tend to see those red flags which you should avoid. So remember, record yourself. First is rehearse what you're going to do, record what you're going to do, and then review how you have done it. Okay. Point number 4 is the mock session. Now, the mock session is pretty important, especially for people who want to do well. Remember this, a mock session is you having someone who plays the role of being the interviewer. He will sit there, he will ask you the questions, and you will answer. And then he will give you feedback and tell you, okay, this is where you did well, this is where you need to improve, this is where you can do better. Okay, so the mock sessions are more like the fake sessions that you're going to have of the actual interview. And this gives you plenty of room to get feedback. In fact, what I tend to do is I tell people that have your wife or your spouse take your interview, have 2-3 people at the side who will review what you've done, who will take down notes and tell you, okay, this is where you did well, this is where you can improve, this is how you can do better. Okay, then point number 5, keep in mind that an interview is a conversation. Now, people tend to forget an interview is a conversation. They think that an interview is, oh, I'm going to be judged, oh, I have to do incredibly well, oh, what if I mess up? It is nothing but you, a human being, having a conversation with another human being. But yes, the only twist in the entire process is the fact that you're trying to sell yourself. So make sure that when you have this dialogue that goes on back and forth, that it feels like a conversation. For example, the person says, so, give me a moment in your life where you showed exceptional leadership. A canned response would be, I showed leadership. Yes, this was 3 years ago, and I was having a lot of stress in the office. So it looks like a canned response. However, if you make it a conversation and the guy says, give me a time where you showed exceptional leadership, a conversation format would be, it's interesting that you bring this up because it brings back memories of, so give it like a conversation, make it like, a dance that you're having with this person. In fact, this is something I tend to recommend with people. When you're sitting down with the person and you're talking, let's say the person asks, would you like a cup of tea? Would you like water? Would you like a glass of water? Don't say no. If you say, the person says, would you like a cup of tea? Say, why not? Say, definitely. So what happens, it breaks the ice. It makes more like a fluid conversation between you and the other person. Okay? That doesn't mean you have to sit and keep slurping the tea, but what happens is it kind of relaxes both the parties. Okay? And also, if the guy is just asking you, do you want a cup of tea? And, he's just doing it for formality's sake. And if you were to say yes, this kind of shows confidence. This kind of shows, okay, the guy knows who he is. Okay. Point number 6 is it's very important to warm up before the interview. What I suggest to people is before going to the interview, have a warm up session in the car where you can record yourself through your iPhone, review yourself, or you can just have a conversation with yourself in the car, or you can have a pep talk. And when you're walking, pump yourself up so that when you get down to the actual interview, you are ready. Okay. You are ready to just tango. Because what happens is if you come across cold and it takes you time to warm up, then sometimes you may not give the performance that you actually want to give. Okay. Point number 7 is please be on time and make sure there is a buffer. If you are racing through traffic, through everything else and trying to reach there on time, and you don't reach there on time, and then you rush, and that can be pretty embarrassing. And if in case you're late, let's say in case you're late, apologize to the person, let them know that, this was truly genuine. I got stuck up in traffic. I apologize. Please do consider me for the interview. So it's worthwhile being genuine over there. But what I'd recommend is always be there half an hour early. Give yourself, 15 to 20 minutes. The reason being is you can go to the washroom, you can, get fresh, you can prepare yourself, you can get into the groove of things. Point number 8, like I said, if you are on time or if you have a buffer, you prepare yourself. The prepare yourself is check yourself out. Okay, check. Are my shoes, are the laces done properly? Are my trousers, is the belt, is the shirt, is everything, proper? Is my tie aligned properly? You move yourself a little bit, stretch a little bit. So then what happens is you are getting yourself into the zone. Make sure that you don't look tired, you don't look sweaty, you don't look oily. In fact, I tell people, take a man bag. A man bag is where you have your toiletries for what is required for you to get fresh. So if you have, let's say, a towel just to wipe your face, or to refresh your face, maybe I even tell people, if you need to have a perfume, okay, just to spray a little bit on the neck and just feel fresh, go ahead and do that, because what happens is you need to show that you're in your A game and you're completely prepared, especially in countries which are very hot and humid. Okay, it always feels nice to be really fresh. Then point number 9 is it's very important that when you go to the interview, have a perspective. Have a perspective that you're having a dialogue with the person, a conversation. Do not, under any circumstances, be in a state of awe or be in a state of shock. Like, oh, sir, oh, don't go like that. Okay? Because when the person's speaking to you, the person should know that, this guy's just like me. He's come. So don't be in a state of awe, because if you succumb to that, you have already lost the battle. Okay, now let me just have a sip of hot coffee. Kind of helps me relax. Okay, point number 10. Remember this, do not impress the person, rather express to the person. There are some people who try to put on an accent who, hi, how are you? And they try to be very smart and jazzy and really good and all that. That's all fuck all, okay? The person can see through it and he knows for a fact you're trying to be who you're not. In fact, I've seen interviews where the guy, they try to be like this. Yes, hi, how are you? Yes, oh, very sophisticated. That all is bullshit, man. People can see through it. Stop trying to fake it, okay? Just don't do that, because it comes across as fake and people can see through it. Point number 11. Now, this one's pretty important where the visual look is concerned. It's very important for you to have a suit, okay, have a business attire. And when I talk about business attire, please avoid wearing a suit that you wore for your wedding, which was like 5 or 10 years ago. And now when you're wearing it, it's like tight. You can't even move your bloody shoulders. You can't even button yourself because, you've outgrown the size. Make sure that it is stitched and it's tailored, perfect. It's tailored to your body. And one of the tips that I give people is when you're going for the interview, make sure that you wear the outfit and you have the mock sessions with the outfit. So it's like when you sit down, when you have to unbutton the button that is holding the jacket together, you look relaxed, you sound relaxed, and you sound comfortable in the suit. There are some people who, when they wear the suit, you can make out that they're suffering and they're struggling with it. In fact, when you go into a room, and if the room is hot, don't still struggle in the suit and you're sweating. Take it off, put it on the chair, relax yourself, because that would show that you are, in the zone. And please, it's very, very important. If the place is hot and you're wearing a suit, remember, when you take off the suit, sometimes there's that strong body odor. Be aware of this, okay? That is where I tell people, wear a half sleeve banyan inside, then wear the shirt at the top, and then wear the jacket. So what happens is the vest that is inside, it absorbs the body odor which comes out. Some people tend to have a very strong body odor. So please be aware of this, okay? it's very important that you tailor the suit and it fits you and you need to be comfortable. One of the principles that I share with people here is 47303. 4 means at 4 second mark, you are judged. At the 7 second mark, you get the first 7 seconds to speak whatever you have to say. 30 is 30 seconds. 30 seconds sets the tone for the interview. And 3 is in 3 minutes, you can either make or break the interview. Okay, 47303. Point number 12 is be courteous. Okay, have your manners in place. Be genuine. Okay, don't try to fake it. Don't try to be something that you're not. And most important is be confident. Okay, people love a confident person. People love an enthusiastic person. People love a person who comes there with a purpose. Okay, and it shows in the way that you walk. It shows in the way you pull the chair. It shows in the way you sit down. So make sure that you rehearse this bit very well. How you bring yourself to the table, how you sit down, and how you present yourself. Point number 13, remember the 3 I's of an interview. You have to be interesting, okay? The person should always want to listen to you. You have to be informative. You have to give the person the information that they need. And number 3 is you need to be intriguing. The person should always want to, wow, tell me next, what happened next, So they should be like a storyline with suspense where the person should be like, wow, this really sounds nice, So always have this happy ending, have something that is positive, have something that the person can look up to. Point number 14. Now, this one is the trait of a storyteller. It's very important to be logical. Make sense of what you're saying. Don't just simply say for the hell of saying, like, I worked very hard. I worked very hard because I had to achieve my targets. No, if you're going to give them a statement like, I worked very hard, give them the why. Tell them why. Say, my back was against the wall. I knew that if I didn't achieve the target, I would be given the pink slip, and that is not something I wanted. So I wanted to prove myself to the management. So I worked myself out, and I achieved not only success the first month, the second month, but I went straight ahead all the 6 months. And that is where the management realized that I was an ace. I was good at what I was doing. The only thing I needed from them was their support. So this would give a kind of a logical story that, okay, his back was against the wall. Why? And then you'll put, everything else in place. The other thing that you need to have is have strong emotions in your storytelling capacity. Give them reasons. Like, for example, one of the best stories that I have where interviews are concerned was this young man whose mother she just lost her husband. She became a widow, and he had to shoulder the responsibility of 2 sisters to get them married. And, even though it was just a story, but you could make out the intensity by which you're saying, I have 3 people who I'm responsible for, so I know I cannot fail, and I will not fail. And that really appealed to me when I was taking his interview, because here was a person who had something really strong. His emotions really showed when he gave his story. So have something that really gives not only logic but also emotions, and people can feel it. They can sense it if you're genuine. Keep this much in mind. Do not fake your stories. Okay. Point number 15 is it's very important sometimes when the person asks you a question, if you're not sure, pause. Okay. Just keep silent. Think and then verify. Okay. So if you're not sure, let's say the person says, could you give me a time in your life where you have absolutely failed? So absolutely failed. That's interesting. Then what you do is you take a few seconds to think, okay, where did I fail? All right. Then what you do is once this digest into your system, say, if I were to understand your question, you are talking of a time in my life where, in my working career, where I didn't actually achieve success. Well, I can pick one incident. So what happens is you have not only understood their question, you've let it sink into your system, and then you have tried to verify as to how you can give them a proper answer. So sometimes take your time to think, pause. There's no harm in having a pause. Okay. Point number 16. If you do not understand what they are saying, request them to repeat themselves. Let's say, for example, he said, and what do you think about, being second best? So he says something like being second best in your company. So let's say you didn't understand the question. Sorry, I didn't quite follow that question. What did you mean by being second best in my company? So what happens is the guy would, rephrase what he's saying to make it understandable. Um, uh, it's very important that when you don't understand something, you tell them, I'm sorry, I didn't quite get you, or I didn't understand your question. Could you please repeat yourself? So what happens is the person will repeat themselves, and this will help in having a very clear and smooth conversation. Point number 17. I think sometimes when you have your interview session, it's important to acknowledge your surroundings or what is happening. Let's say, for example, you're having the interview and the guy gets a call. The guy gets a call, he's looking at his phone and he's doing something. When he's looking at his phone and he's doing something, keep quiet. Just keep quiet because he's not paying attention to you. So let's say, the person is talking and the interviewer is looking at his phone. I would pause. I'd wait for the person to finish, and when the person look up, I would say that I was just waiting for you to finish because it's not sure whether uh, I was interesting or not. So what happens is the person is like, oh, sorry, no, or let's say, for example, the person is looking at his phone, and then you just pause, and then you say, are you getting a call, or is there a message? Should I wait? Should I continue? So what happens is you are trying to acknowledge what is happening there. Let's say, for example, the person starts yawning and he looks tired. Say, it looks like I'm boring you with what I'm saying. So what happened? The person, no. It's just I was tired. I had a long night. So what happens is you're acknowledging what is happening. Sometimes I tend to do this when I'm going for an interview and I can see, let's say, trophies on the wall or certificates. I would acknowledge what I can see. Oh wow, you do have amazing certificates. What is that certificate for? So the person will feel like, oh, that one I got for this achievement. People love to brag about their achievements. So when you do acknowledge something that you can see explicitly in and around the place, the person would love to interact with you. Okay. Um, Point number 18. Do not come with an attitude of saying, yes, sir, no, sir, nod your head like a idiot. Especially Asians, yes, sir, no, sir, no, sir, no, sir. Don't do that. And if you don't understand something, tell them, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Could you repeat yourself once again? Could you just repeat that point? So don't say yes, sir, no, sir. Don't give them that pedestal of sir, sir, sir. Some cultures, they tend to have this respect, that they give. But many times it looks like, having inferiority complex. Remember this, a Western expatriate like an American or British, they would never call you sir. Okay, they would call you by your first name. And if the person is really dying to be called sir, 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 it's better you don't work for that person. Okay, point number 19 is prepare for the worst. Some of the interviews that people have gone for, they have had questions which were rather personal or rather disturbing. Like, let's say this candidate, this friend of mine went for the interview. The person said, I don't think you're the right person for the job, with the way that you have just walked in. One other example I can give you is this lady walked in and this guy just blurted out, I don't like the look of your face. So she was taken aback, but she really gave it back to the guy. And she told him, the feeling's mutual. I'm glad that we are on the same page. So what you need to do is prepare for the worst, because sometimes if you're not prepared for the worst, you can get flustered by that person. Let's say, you go for an interview and the guy says that, you are the most predictable and boring person that I've ever met. How are you going to handle this situation? What are you going to say? You need to be prepared for this. Always keep in mind, prepare for the worst questions. Let's say the person says, I don't think you're the right person for the job. I seriously don't think so. What are you going to say next? So always have something that can not just, get back to the person, but prove it to the person that you are passionate about the job. Okay. Point number 20 is always have specific time bound and, real time examples. For instance, they can ask you a question, give me a time where you showed exceptional leadership, or can you give me a time in your job or your career where you were given so much of responsibility, but you couldn't handle it? So what you need to do is be specific and start with, yes, in the year 2000, this was the project that I was doing. This was the value of the project. These are the number of people that were under me, and this was what I was supposed to deliver. So what happens is when you give them a specific example of what actually was supposed to take place, you tend to be more credible. Then point number 21, it's very important to be aware of what you're saying. So let's say, for example, you spoke and you told them, you give them an example of leadership, where you prove to be an amazing leader. And if you see the confusion in that person's face, or you feel that you've not been able to connect to that person, just tell them, what I was trying to say through the example is what I was trying to say, or ask yourself, okay, what was the point I was trying to make? So when you ask yourself that, what is the point I was trying to make? Automatically, you'll answer it. The point I was trying to make here is that I was given something really tough. Even my company thought I wouldn't be able to achieve or accomplish this task, but I did it. This is what I was trying to communicate to you through this example. So it's very important to sometimes catch yourself and remind yourself, what exactly am I trying to say here? Point number 22 is, it's important for you to come to the interview with a series of questions that show that you are insightful, you are empathetic towards the position, and you care about what you're going to do. It's very important to ask really thought-provoking questions. For example, ask yourself, how would you know that I'm the right fit for the job? What are the KPIs, the key performance indicators? How would I be measured? Let's say I join the first 3 months. Okay, how would you measure, like, what is the work that I'm doing? Is it number of calls, number of clients, number of closures that I had? Then how would I be evaluated? What is the feedback process like? So come with these questions that show the interviewer that you are really interested about the job, that you're really keen to understand what the job is all about. Okay. Point number 23 is find out the key performance indicators, that is KPIs, and the measurables by which you'll be evaluated. It's very important to know what is the score sheet. How would you be measured? Let's say, for example, in sales, it is purely numbers. So is it like how many people, how many customers that you did you visit? How many inquiries did you get? How many did you close? How many did you get in terms of payment collection? Is that a close? So when you get these answers, you come to realize, okay, this is how I'll be measured. Because in some, let's say, for example, banks, they are looking at how many inquiries did you bring in. Okay, you bought 100 inquiries. Yes, you are doing your work. Or another case can be, no, I don't care how many inquiries you bought in. How many customers did sign the dotted line? Those are our customers. And in some other cases, it is like, fine, they signed the dotted line, but where is the payment? Okay, so you need to find out what are the KPIs and what are the measurables. Point number 24 is research the company. Now, obviously, there is confusion. How will I research the company? There are places like Glassdoor, there are places like Wikipedia where you can check about the company. But another way of doing it is where you speak to the receptionist, where you speak to the people who are working in that company, where you speak to the people at the shop floor level and just interact with them. Check out the culture. Do you see many Arabs there? Do you see many ladies there? Do you see many guys? Do you see young people, old people? Do you see people walking freely? Do you see them talking, casually? So that would give you an idea about the company and its culture. Is everyone sitting like, is it like a college campus where everyone's sitting and talking to each other as friends? Or does everyone have a suited and buttoned down attitude where everything is silent and dreaded and dead? So you would understand the corporate environment by doing your research. And remember this, it takes a little bit of effort over here. Then point number 25 is make sure that when you come for the interview, you come with a notebook and a pen, preferably in a leather-bound, leather-bound case, because that would help you take down notes. And if the person asks, what are you taking down? Just say, I just like to be very specific on the communication that I have, and I like to keep records of what has been discussed. So this shows the level of seriousness. One other thing that I would give you is, point number 26 is have an iPad. Have an iPad with a Wi-Fi connection, so that if in case you have to show them, let's say, an email or a digital display of, let's say, your LinkedIn profile, or you want to show them something, where you have to connect online, this helps very much, especially if you're trying to show them a website. Then Point number 26 is be proactive. Now, let's say, for example, the person tells you, okay, sell me this pen. Now, this is really, I find this really stupid question, sell me this pen. So, I would be proactive. I would ask the person, so is this a luxury commodity or are you talking of this being, let's say, a $1 pen? So the person will be like, oh, okay, he's ready for it. Luxury commodity. So luxury commodity, then I would focus on the luxury. I would focus on how it suits them very well, how it brings style and substance. Then if in case it would be something like a day-to-day $1 pen, I would just tell them that, this is a pen that even if you lose it, you'd not feel the pinch because this is pretty disposable. Another thing that is good about this pen is it doesn't leak. It writes for X number of hours and it's cheap. It's pretty reliable. So in both the cases, I would tell them that, if it's luxury, I would appeal to their luxurious self or I'd appeal to style and substance. If it is something cheap, I would appeal to the fact that it is something that they wouldn't feel the pinch about. So in every way, it is me being proactive in nature. And here, what you need to keep in mind is don't fall for the trap where they're just trying to, push you around and tell you, sell me this. No, I'm not convinced about it. Then if I was there in their shoes, I would tell them, how would you sell me this pen? I'm just curious to know, how would you actually do it? Because I need to understand the process. So what happens, a person like, oh my goodness, okay, this person knows what he's talking about. I've done this. I've actually done this. When the person has told me, sell me this pen, I've asked them, how exactly would you recommend selling this pen? What would you actually say? I'm just curious to know. So then this person's like, okay. And I'll tell you, sometimes it's very necessary to do that. Here's one thing. Don't allow a person to bully you around. Point number 28 is have a rapport with that person. If the person is laughing, enjoy the moment. If the person's serious, be alert. However, just don't be too relaxed because sometimes they are trying to get you at your moment when you are not paying attention, and that is where they'll catch you. So maintain a rapport, but be alert always. Point number 29, if you don't know, say I don't know. There are many times where they'll ask you, what is the turnover of the company or how many employees are there? If you don't know, just say I don't know. Say I'm just giving you guesswork. This is approximate. And say, how is it that you don't know? Well, I'm sorry, but I just don't know. But I can get the answer if you're looking for it. So remember this. Sometimes it's good to say I don't know. Point number 30. It's very important after you finish the interview. Always take the email address, ask for their business card, send them a thank you note, thanking them for their time, and giving them a response, acknowledging the important parts of the interview. Say, thank you very much for the interview. The one very important thing which I learned through this interview process was, I really appreciate your time. Also, after you send them the thank you, in that email, it's very important to say, I would get in touch with you after 3 days as discussed, in and around 11 o'clock to know where do I stand in terms of the interview process. And that is where point 31 comes in, where you need to tell them that when you will get back to them to know where do you stand. Because just being up in the air that, we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you like when? Like, is it, would you make the decision for this position within 3 days or 1 week? Because if you are going to make the decision in 3 days, I'll follow up with you on the third day. And if the response is yes, no, whatever it is, so then I know that I can move on. So it's very important to be specific because there are some people who just don't respect the fact that you have come for an interview and a job. Or sometimes it can be they have so many people where they don't want to respond to everyone. So just tell them that I know that you maybe have 6 or 7 candidates, but it would be nice just to know where do I stand. So if it is yes, great. If it's no, I understand. So is it okay? I give you a call after 3 days in and around after 11 o'clock just to know where do I stand in terms of my application. So it's give them something specific. It always helps. Okay. Then point number 33 is, point number 32 is, if they ask you something where you're supposed to give an answer and you're not too sure, let's say it's about salary, negotiation. They tell you, you're asking for $3,000. Now our budget is 2.5, that's the last we can do. Say, we need you to give us an answer right away. So if they're trying to put you in a corner and say, we need to give you an answer right away, just tell them, I have to discuss this with my better half or my spouse. because this is a decision that's going to impact both of us. So can you just give me, let's say, 1 hour? Once I get back home, I'll speak to my wife and get back to you. I'm pretty sure they would respect your privacy and your space. So if you're not too sure, do not give them a commitment. Tell them I'll get back to you, because when I give you the answer, I want to be sure about it. Then the last, if not the least, is the questions that you ask them. Make sure that they are intelligent. Make sure that they focus on the legal aspect of your relationship, the future, discuss details of the probationary period, discuss details of the contractual clause, discuss the exit strategy, because these are the questions people generally don't ask, and that is why they are not given the information. And it's very important, when they give you the answers for all this, take it down, write it down, and repeat it back to them so they know that, okay, the guy is paying attention to what I'm saying and he's trying to be specific. So guys, these are some of the tips, tricks, and strategies of how you can ace an interview. Try doing what I've suggested. Mentally try to remember all these points and do your best. Okay, do your best, because when you do this over and over again, in time you'll be really good at selling yourself, marketing yourself. And I can assure you this much, that if you approach an interview with a sense of confidence, with a sense of awareness, with a sense of focus, you will ace an interview every time you go there. So like the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't like it, thumbs down. Put your comments down below. I always read them. This is me signing off for now. Take care.